Starburst!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales of Tormented Space.
Actually, we're still not quite back to tormented space, are we?
True.
We're still in orbit around Earth, and the actual Earth this time. So,
Earth orbit.
Tales from Earth. Kind of anticlimactic.
Tales from LEO.
Ooh, that is my favourite prog pop synth band. Did I do that right?
I think you're talking about ELO.
Was I?
I don't know.
Because that would be convenient if that was indeed. Because I think that I was thinking of OMD, which from Maid of New Orleans.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Orchestral maneuvers in the dark. And
right.
I think the joke I was trying was going indeed for ELO.
Yes.
Electric
Light Orchestra. Yes.
I mean, it's basically the same thing. Oh no, it's not the same thing. I'm probably going to get tweeted at a lot. Hey, Kay. I've got something cool.
Yes. Do tell.
Well, okay, so picking a fanfic this time around was actually a lot harder than I thought. Do you remember how last time, after Kansas, I went over to the Terra Firma Escapers board and I sort of complained that there weren't that many crazy fanfics.
Okay.
Do you know what I found when I went to 413 Terra Firma?
Go, do tell.
As many fanfics as the rest of the season so far.
Oh, wow.
Like a dozen from a single author, and then multiple authors doing that. It was really extraordinary.
I guess someone got inspired again? Or was there
I tried to figure that out. Like, I looked at the dates, because the forum is very well organized, and it actually lists dates for everything. And, like, some of them were indeed written immediately after, which is, like, it's so wild to me that there was this hiatus after 411, during which apparently not a lot of fanfic was submitted, but in the week between 413 and 414, it just exploded. But there was also ones that were like written years apart, that just the author sort of chose this moment.
I guess interesting things must have happened.
Yeah, right.
For people to think about and talk about. I mean, they're kind of had. When is this airing? It's like...
We've just watched 413.
Okay, just checking.
And we are still going to see 414 twice shy, which we're very curious about, aren't we?
Right, that's why I'm not asking. That's why I asked. I was going to say something, and I have to make sure that
Even Kay is on Team K and protecting our listeners who haven't seen it yet.
Yes.
Okay, but so I couldn't win for losing. I'm so spoiled for choice. I looked at a bunch of them, and I realized like we've actually been doing a lot of feelsy fanfics, which aren't great, but I kind of felt like some variation. And then I remembered we are quite a bit behind on our Farscape magazines.
Oh.
Yeah, this is good news. I mean, coupled with some weird news, because do you remember the last Farscape magazine that I gave you?
Yes, the double one.
Yes, I gave you that twice.
Yes.
Which we didn't notice, and listeners at home also didn't notice that I gave you Volume 4 twice, which you were very excited.
It did have a different cover.
I think it did,
In all fairness, so that's...
But I've got a new one for you.
Ooh.
Yes. We've got issue number 5, originally airing in March, April 2002, so it's from ages ago.
Yes. Oh, this is like almost an antique at this point.
Publication was in full swing. Oh, yeah, we're getting up there.
It's always so exciting when I get a new one of these, because I never know if it's going to be the last one, because, I don't know when they stopped making these. It's like
maybe they just kept on making episode 4 over and over again.
Well, and I know there's 4 seasons, but I don't know how many episodes. So far, it's been roughly 1 episode per season.
I love that you call them episodes. Well, if you look at the dates...
publication per
issues.
season.
No, please continue calling them episodes. I love it. Now, if you look at the dates, this is from 2002. So I think season 2 was still in swing at the time.
It says info on season 4, so they were like
planning
way ahead. So
maybe it was from the hiatus. Oh,
well, let's have a quick look and see what we can see. Okay, well, we've got Jewel here, so that's definitely season 3. Yes, yeah, totally. Zahn's still there.
Well, they kept, of course, talking to the prior actors, and did Virginia Hay show up in season 3? No, she didn't.
Well a couple of cameos
in the beginning.
Yeah, and that was all season 4.
That was in season 4, which
absolutely
the readers of this particular book wouldn't have known yet. What are you looking at?
I'm just went like, okay, he's showing up quite prominently here.
He being for the readers at home,
of course. Yes, what's name?
Jack.
Well, I was trying to go for the name of the actor, but
Kent McCord.
Right. Yes, that's the one.
Yes, there's a big photo of Kent McCord and the word "Daddy!" !
Yes. Well, I'm trying to figure out where this is from, because he's holding on to Aaron, so this is probably not actually Daddy, but one of the
aliens. Jack the alien. This must be from the middle of season 3.
I think so.
The death of Blackshirt Crichton.
And here we have like a lovely 3 times the same actor as a different alien.
Yes, Francesca Buller as... Oh, can you name them?
No.
I would give you 1,000,000 points if you can name them. I'll give you 100 points if you can name one. Without looking at the page, by the way.
I'm just looking at their pictures. Okay, so this was from the plant last lady, from who was the
Bone Eater.
The Bone Eater, right.
Bone to Be Wild at the end of season 1. Very good.
This looks like one of the wormhole people. The time.
Oh, one of the Pathfinders.
I think it's one of the Pathfinders.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, and I can't.
What if I help you with? Whoa. Does that help you identify?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, there was these girls. See, so I'll take you to see the.
Oh, it's the one with the beach party and the
yes.
That episode, yes. And I can't remember the last. It doesn't seem familiar. Is that the Shadow Repository?
At the Shadow Depository? No, unfortunately. No, that was in Look at the Princess. She was the attendant,
the chambermaid. Yeah, the lady's maid or whatever it was.
Who wound up betraying our heroes. So those are Emily, Raxel, and Rona. Because I am a very good Farscape fan.
Yes. And I am terrible with names, as all listeners should well know by now.
We should have challenged you to come up with nicknames for them.
Names literally go in one ear and out the other for me. It's terrible.
Hey, so there should be another not fan fiction as
no. I mean it's canonical if it's in
Keith R.A. DeCandido, whom I promise never again to call R.A. Salvatore, pointed out these are licensed fictions.
Therefore, they're canon, I suppose.
The canonicity is debatable. Okay. But they're at least officially licensed, and they're fictions, and they're owned by the Jim Henson Company or whoever. Actually, in fact, I think whoever owns the rights to these magazines that are out of print. So maybe there's technically I
have no idea who would.
I don't know.
I don't know who would own the copy.
It'll be cool.
It'll be whoever licensed the show or owns the rights to the show, I suppose.
I have no idea, but let's just everybody be cool, okay? Let's not rock the boat and have ourselves a little story time.
So yes, we have another story by Richard Manning.
Ricky Manning, Frunium himself. Oh, I didn't even realize.
Farscape writer and executive producer. And the story takes place during the season 3 premiere, Season of Death.
And it's called Faces.
Yes.
It's got a nice big photo of Rigel.
Rather dour-looking Rigel.
Do you know it's pronounced Doer?
Doer, yes, I know. It's just like...
I was 42 years old when I learned that.
Yes, I was 49 years old when I learned that.
It's just so wild.
It's taking a while to get out of the habit of saying it wrong.
I was in my 20s when I was still saying Ricochet instead of Ricochet. Because I'd only ever seen it written, and it didn't click that it was French.
Oh, yes, this makes sense.
All right.
Oh, so yes.
I am... Okay, so you've got the magazine, and
season
I've got
3 premiere,
photos that I'm watching on a very old iPad 2. It has a very good screen,
yes.
But oh my God, it's
we have
slow.
A photo of Aaron in her casket, I suppose, with
oh yes,
with the Coulter blade, and this is kind of faded on the side. There's a photo of what's his name again? Jothee. Yes, that was it. Who was, I guess, still around on that beginning?
Yeah. They must have just buried. I mean, it opened with them having buried Aaron, who was definitely dead forever.
Yes, totally. Mm-hmm. Yes. Unlike Zahn, who's coming back every other episode.
Oh, if only.
Anyway, so Faces by
Ricky Manning.
Manning actually wrote it himself. They didn't get a ghostwriter or anything for that. All right. Rigel sat in near darkness, munching from a bowl of crispy Grolac? Yes, Grolac. Movement in the passageway outside startled him, but it was merely one of Moya's DRD skittering past on its way to perform some chore.
He yawned. Grolac always made him sleepy. Well, at the moment, there was little to do but sleep anyway. That Frelling Grunchlick had failed to deliver on his promise, so Rigel was once again stuck on Moya. stuck on a damaged ship in tiny quarters with an insignificant amount of possessions. How depressing.
How far can a Dominar sink? Rigel drowsily scanned his quarters, his portrait, his favourite utensils, his robes, his wholly inadequate share of the spoils from the Shadow Depository. Meagre possessions indeed.
Oh, that portrait that Zan painted for him 20 seconds. Just as Rigel was nodding off, he vaguely realized that something was missing. It took his half-asleep brain a moment to identify what it was. His royal sash and pendant. Now, who could have taken...
Rigel sat up with a start as full memory returned. Nobody had taken it. He'd given it away. Sadly, but willingly. He knew exactly where it was, in the coffin of Officer Aaron's son. Oh, he's going to go on a coffin robbing expedition. We know he's done this before. It was on the Grave Planet. He has no qualms about grave robbery.
No, and he's exactly the kind of person who would give something solemnly as a gift and then realize he still wanted it, and then sort of sneak back in.
Pop the coffin and get it back out again.
Not feel weird about it at all. It's just, as long as he doesn't fucking Weekend at Bernie's her.
It's the gesture that counts, you know?
No, it's not. It's the... sleep was impossible now. Rigel kept seeing Aaron's face, frozen white in death, locked into an expression of... what? Defeat? No, not Aaron. Never defeat. Determination. She had forsworn the peacekeepers, but she'd never stopped being a soldier. Never given in to defeat, even as the icy water filled her lungs. Rigel was certain she'd fought to the very last breath. Good
he hadn't meant to give her his royal pendant. He'd worn it to her funeral to honour her, but as he'd approached to pay his last respects, he suddenly found himself placing his most treasured possession onto Aaron's casket. "You are more worthy of this," he'd whispered. Also to his surprise, after all, despite Aaron's merit, she was neither Hynerian nor royalty.
Wow, Rigel. Oh. He'd acted on impulse, which he knew was foolhardy behaviour from a Dominar. Yet he'd meant what he'd said, and he fervently wished that her afterlife, if Sebaceans had such a thing, would be a pleasant one, where she could escape the struggle and torment that she still showed on her lifeless face.
At peace, Aaron. It was the only benediction that had come to his lips. He'd wanted to say more, to salute her with oratory, yes, but there had seemed no point. She was gone. He hoped she'd found peace.
Oh. Rigel realized he was still holding a half-eaten piece of Grolak. He'd become so lost in morose thoughts that he'd actually forgotten to eat.
Ooh.
That was unsatisfactory, not to mention unhealthy. He was a Dominar and had to persevere. He quickly swallowed the Grolak and reached for more. A bit too much Shayreel powder, perhaps, but not bad. Gianna had become quite a passable cook, which, he reflected, further put the lie to the little charade Gianna and Jothi had performed for his benefit. When he'd entered the center chamber in search of food, the place looked like it had been hit by a Sheyang plasma bomb. Food, pots, and cutlery everywhere. And there were Gianna and Jothi, breathing heavily, clothing askew, looking guilty as Dren.
"What the hell's happened in here?" Rigel had demanded.
"Oh," Gianna stammered, "we were making some sork wings and a pot exploded."
Rigel couldn't believe that was the best lie she could come up with. "You blew up a cookpot."
Yikes.
Sorry.
A what? Did you? What? Wouldn't it be nice if someone edited this out?
A pot cook. A cookpot, thank you.
There you go.
Oh. In my defense, this is white lettering on a light blue background, and I've got a hard time reading it.
And I poured you rather a stiff Negroni. Jothi chimed in, equally unconvincingly. "We use too much Lutra oil. The Grolak's fine, though."
Nice and crispy, Gianna added, thrusting a bowl at Rigel. "Here, sit down and eat. I'll give the sork wings another try."
Now I've got to pop over to the next page, which I will do
there we have
just
Jothi.
In a moment, and it's refreshing, and gosh, it's a fine device for its time, but it's showing its age. Obviously, Gianna and Jothi had been up to what the peacekeepers quaintly termed recreating. Rigel decided to file the entire incident under information that might be useful someday.
I.e. blackmail.
Yeah! And allow Gianna and Jothi to think they'd fooled him. He took the bowl of Grolak. "I'll consume this in a room without detonating crockery, thank you very much."
Rygel still remembered the looks of relief on Chana and Jothi's face as he exited. He fully understood why they'd been so disturbed. If Dargo ever found out that his lover had been cheating on him with his son, he'd doubtless kill at least one of them, possibly both.
At the thought of Dargo, Rygel frowned. In his opinion, Dargo had a horrendous temper, even for a Luxon, and his face had only two expressions, a disdainful scowl and an angry scowl, which, given the amount of latex...
I mean, he's clearly not been looking at Dargo's eyes, because...
Oh, yeah. Could you look anywhere else?
Do you really?
Those beautiful eyes.
Really, though? I mean, that would be like, yes, that would work actually perfectly, that gif from the episode where he leans over to Rygel. Really, though?
Down on the ice planet in the corridors of the medical center, Rygel had just been on the receiving end of the disdainful scowl. "You haven't told us what brought you down here," Dargo had said sourly. Not sourly, by the way. Hey, English, get your act together.
Wow, when did that ever happen? "Merely concerned for Crichton," Rygel had replied. "Wanted to make sure there were no problems."
That's when Dargo had given him the look of disdain.
Capitalized.
And for what? It was Rygel who discovered that there were problems, that Crichton was babbling incoherently on the operating table, and that the surgeon, diagnosing Tokot, was collapsed on the floor, barely moving. It was Rygel who'd promptly calmed Moya to let the others know. It was Rygel who'd followed Zaan's instructions. Turn on the green light of the biological neutralizer, turn off the whatever it was called that had made Crichton's skull see-through, and get Tokot breathing again, by any means possible. Rygel shuddered at the...
memory.
Hey, yes.
Never again did he want to perform artificial respiration on a diagnoson. They were simply too grotesque, and their facial orifices were, well, moist.
Ugh.
Regardless, Rygel had complied and saved Tokot's life.
And what had the Luxon contributed? Nothing. But before Rygel could point any of this out, Dargo had thrust a hand under the throne sled's cushions, a severe breach of privacy. "Hey," Rygel had protested, "I don't even permit my wives to do that."
Dargo hadn't listened, had instead yanked out a handful of gemstones, Rygel's rightful property. Again the scowl. "You came to buy something. What?"
Under the circumstances, hey, not to briefly slip into what our friend Crimson once called CPR-scape, but what he was talking about, he did not want to perform CPR on Tokot because his orifices were moist.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually valid.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as much as it's noble to help other people in times of need, I think the tenets of first aid are keep yourself safe, and if you actually don't want to do something, don't do it.
Totally. If it's gross or whatever, something has gone on, someone has being throwing up, and you're like, "No, I'm not doing that," then just do the compressions.
Yeah,
better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe even in the US, they don't even bother with the breathing anymore, at least not if you're not a professional.
Right. I mean, chest compressions do
over here, they still teach you to do the breathing as well.
Now, I've understood that in Japan, respiration or CPR became a lot more successful after they stopped teaching mouth to mouth.
I can see people would be more comfortable to actually go ahead and start it.
To just do the compressions.
Yeah,
okay,
fair enough. Anyway, let's see, where were we? Under the circumstances, Rygel thought his response had been quite restrained. "I don't see how that's your business."
And the Luxon had actually grabbed Rygel's earbrows. The absolute temerity. "What are you after? An escape route?"
Rygel's patience was wearing thin. "Well, what if I am?"
"Say so. Don't pretend you ever gave a Grantus Brax about Crichton, Aaron, or anyone else, you selfish pile of dread."
That's when Rygel had lost it.
Whoa.
No Domina should have to bear a tenth of this indignity. Furious, he gunned the throne sled into reverse, yanked free of Dargo's grip, and displayed something else he'd kept in the sled. A short, sharp blade.
Whoa. "See this knife, Luxon? I carried it in my teeth when I swam to the bottom of that freezing cold lake. I used it to cut Aaron's corpse free from its harness, and if you ever lay hands on me again, I'll use it to slice off your mivonks."
Rygel had meant it, and Dargo had known it. Neither gave an inch. Fortunately for the Luxon, the standoff was interrupted by a groan echoing through the corridors. The sound led them to find Tokot's business partner Grunchik in pain, slumped on the floor.
Grunchlick's arm was bleeding from what looked like a short-range pulse blast. Oh, we know how he got that one.
Very short range.
Help! Scorpius shot me. Took the chip.
When? Snapped Dargo.
A couple of hours ago. Gone now.
Long gone. Dargo moved to take a look at Grunchlick's wound, but Grunchlick waved him away. I'm all right. Bleeding stopped. What about the doc? Is he dead?
No, said Dargo. We managed to save him.
Rigel couldn't believe it. He promptly set the record straight on that score. I managed to save him. Dargo, if you wish to make yourself useful for a change, go check on him. Grunchlick and I will catch up. Oh, we'll see what he's doing there.
Your concern for others is overwhelming, sneered Dargo. Clearly he suspected that Rigel wanted a private word with Grunchlick. Rigel didn't care. Let the Luxem believe what he wanted, as long as he went away. And with one more look of disdain, Dargo did just that.
Grunchlick was shakily getting to his feet as Rigel went nose to nose with him. The ship I ordered, where is it?
Grunchlick shrugged. The Hisnoids cancelled the order. Notoriously undependable.
Find another source.
Only one I know. Sorry.
That's hardly good enough. I gave you a deposit. What happened to service paid, service rendered?
Grunchlick glared at Rigel. Rigel glared right back. Then Grunchlick fumbled in a pocket for the gigantic gemstone Rigel had given him. Rigel held out a hand for it, but Grunchlick contemptuously dropped it on the floor and staggered off. How petty can you get? Rigel had thought as he retrieved the stone. Wow.
I mean, yes.
Wow.
Now, still nibbling Grolak, Rigel tried to decide who had the uglier scowl, Dargo or Grunchlick. At length he gave up and declared it a dead heat.
Rigel stifled a yawn. People were constantly misjudging him. Even Zaan had recently snapped at Rigel, Zaan, about the spoils from their raid of the Shadow Depository. Moya is burnt, badly crippled because of our desires, Zaan had said. Was all that wealth worth it? As if the whole thing had been Rigel's idea and not that madman Stark's. As if Rigel weren't donating most of his own share of the proceeds to help pay the diagnosis fee for treating Moya's injuries.
I still hope we get to see Stark again.
Oh, that'd be nice.
However, once Rigel had pointed that out, Zaan had been big enough to admit she was wrong. The blue bitch certainly had her failings, but she was honest. Maybe all that spiritual dren of hers actually did bring her some serenity, most of the time. Most of the time she was most calmer and far more sensible than any of the others, with the exception, naturally, of himself. And, truth be told, Rigel found her placid Delvian features less unpleasant than Dargo's, Grunchlick's, and many others he could name. Funny how the females of a given species usually had more attractive faces than the males, with the exception, naturally, of Hynerians.
What?
The females of the species.
Okay, so he's saying that the males have more attractive faces than the females of his own species.
Right, because he's so vain that he thinks males in general, That's not gay at all. Like,
no.
Vanity is not gay. Narcissus, he wasn't gay.
He is in my fanfics.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's in a lot of fanfics. Actually, I have no idea, but he seems the type.
Is fanfic the kind of thing that antique scholars do?
I am pretty sure that most of Greek mythology is mostly fanfic, but it just got canonized.
Yeah, and instead of printing it on their own blogs, they carved it into pottery.
I'm fairly certain that's true, actually. Yeah. I'd like to talk to a historian about that, but I suspect that they might agree with me.
I wonder how many teenage young women and men sort of tried to sneak the crockery out of the kitchen for some alone time in their room. I found this jug under. Oh no, jugs! Oh my god!
Oh dear.
My son is into jugs. Oh no.
Well, at least he's not gay then.
No, they're the gay jugs.
Oh no. Anyway. I think we might have to put a PG warning on this episode.
Oh, that's fine. I was talking about actual jugs.
No, totally.
Although some of them do have boobies on them. Listen, perhaps that's why Rigel had stopped to speak with Zaan on his way out of the medical centre. After the unpleasant episode with Darko and Grunchlick, Rigel wanted nothing more than to get back to Moya and find something to eat. Yet, en route to the transport pod, he spotted Zaan sitting outside in the snow. Another of her silly Delvian meditations, no doubt. Probably best to leave the crazy veggie alone.
Yes, maybe he was just like trying to go into like a slightly dormant phase, as plants are wont to do when they hit snowy times.
Oh yeah,
yes, like slow down the metabolism. Yes, but she hadn't. More impulsive behaviour. This was getting to be a bad habit. "You all right?" he asked, with more gruffiness than he felt, as he didn't want the Delvian getting any idea that he cared one way or the other about her answer.
Zhaan wasn't all right. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I failed, Rigel."
"Failed at what?"
"Helping John. I wasn't strong enough. Because of that, Aaron died."
"That wasn't your fault. It wasn't even Crichton's fault. It was that frelling ship Scorpius put in Crichton's head." But now that he's started pouring out words, Zhaan wasn't about to stop.
"It was my fault. The Scorpius clone was in the neurochip tricked me. When Crichton asked me to join him in Unity, it was really the Scorpius clone speaking through Crichton."
"Serves me right for asking," Rigel thought. "She'll never shut up now. No good deed goes unpunished. You couldn't have known that."
"I should have anticipated it. Even then, I should have been able to break the bond of unity I'd established. But the Scorpius clone was more powerful. It forced me to release Crichton from the restraints. Because of that, the Scorpius-controlled Crichton was able to flee in the module and force a collision with Erin's Prowler when she gave chase." There's a lot more exposition in this than I'm used to from Farscape scripts.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like stuff that they actually put in the script, but then they like don't make explicit, and they just like try to put it out through imagery.
I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, hang on. So, yes, Zhaan, if Erin had this sense to carry a knife with her when she was rushed off, she could have cut herself loose from her jammed harness when her ejector seat sank into the lake. Harsh, perhaps, but fact. Anything to snap Zhaan out of her self-pity.
Isn't the knife like standard equipment for pilots for like pretty much exactly this reason?
Well, probably a knife, but that's probably more the survival kit. I'd more expect a seatbelt cutter, one of those little things which don't have sharp, pointy bits sticking out randomly into the cabin when there's high G-forces around.
Okay, yes. Potato. It's still a knife.
I would expect so, yes.
Oh, a blade. But Zhaan was scarcely listening. "Then I failed Crichton again. Just after you saved Tokot, I went into Unity with Crichton a second time."
"You did? Whatever for?"
"We didn't know what else to do. Tokot was still recovering and couldn't communicate with us yet. Crichton was speaking only gibberish, but seemed desperate to tell us something. Grunschlik thought perhaps Tokot's surgery had failed, that Crichton's brain was permanently damaged. Dargo suggested that the only way we'd find out for sure was if I shared Unity with Crichton."
"You let him talk you into that?"
Stark agreed.
"Now there's a recommendation."
"He said the evil was gone, now that the neurochip had been removed. But I could still sense it." Zhaan took a deep breath. "Stark said if the evil was still there, we had to find that out as well."
"You should have told Stark and Dargo to go claim a flang tree."
"But Stark was right. And he reminded me that I wasn't alone this time."
Zhaan trailed off. Rigel was beginning to shiver in the cold. Well, having started this, he had to let her finish, but as quickly as possible. "Go on, Zhaan. What happened?"
"I went into Unity, but I couldn't find Crichton at first. Then I heard the Scorpius clone. 'Over here, Delvian.'"
This surprised Rigel. The clone thing was still in there, without the chip? How?
"I don't know. But there it was, as powerful and as evil as before. I backed away, but it shook its head. 'I won't harm you. Crichton and I need you to do something for us.'"
I asked where Crichton was. The Scorpius clone stepped aside and allowed me to find him. Crichton looked drained, defeated. As I approached, he spoke a weak, "Hey, Blue," but he barely looked up.
I told him that the Diagnosan was still alive, that he might be able to restore his powers of speech. Crichton wasn't interested. Got nothing left to say.
I pointed out the clone. "John, there must be a way to get rid of that evil."
I'd forgotten how much I love your impersonation of Zhaan. Crichton met my eyes for the first time. "There is," he said. It took me a few micros to realize what he was suggesting. I told him not to give up hope, but he wouldn't listen. Too late. Scorpius has the wormhole information now. He's home free, and Aaron's gone. The pain on his face, I cannot describe it. He pleaded with me. Scorpius sentenced me to live. Zhaan, I don't want to.
Zhaan shuddered. That's when D'Argo and Stark forced me to break unity. They told me I had been sobbing.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And then?
Then I attempted to kill Crichton.
You what?
He was in agony, Rigel. It's what he wanted, but I failed even in that. D'Argo and Stark stopped me, then forced me out of the room.
Good, Rigel thought. Even if a mercy killing was indeed the best option, he couldn't imagine Zhaan having to live with that. Oh, that's sympathetic. Yeah. Let's see what Tokot can do. As you said to Crichton, one shouldn't give up hope.
As inspirational speeches went, it wasn't much, but it seemed to cheer Zhaan just a bit. She managed the tiniest of smiles for Rigel, then crossed her limbs and fingers in meditation posture once again. Rigel gratefully took that as his cue to leave. It was frelling cold out here.
Another yawn. All the Grolac was gone, and Rigel's eyes were closing. His tired brain fuzzily registered one more face. Female, strong features, ink black hair. The dim perception slowly solidified. Rigel knew this face. It was Aeryn Sun's.
The face spoke. Rigel. Yes, that was definitely her voice, low and precise. Well, well, thought Rigel hazily. It's either a dream or a ghost. I don't like ghosts, so I prefer to believe it's a dream.
He doesn't.
He forced his eyes fully open, but the dream didn't disappear. Instead, it held out an object that glinted in the light from the corridor. Some sort of medallion of Hynerian design. His royal sash and pendant.
Oh, wow! More perplexed than ever, Rigel took the proffered pendant. It felt solid, real. But if the pendant was real, that meant the dream was real as well.
She seemed to read his thoughts, gently touched his face. Yes, Rigel, it's me. I'm alive.
Ah, strange, thought Rigel. I'm having difficulty breathing, which is a common Hynerian response to an emotional shock. But I don't feel an emotional shock. I just feel curious. He forced himself to speak. How?
Zhaan and Stark, they pulled their energies, brought me back somehow. She said it with a sorrow. If she wouldn't have been happier not to come back.
Rigel had no idea how to respond. Several thoughts were swirling at once.
So, Zhaan didn't fail this time?
Stark helped? The lunatic actually made a situation better instead of worse?
Come to think of it, I helped as well, if we'd left her corpse at the bottom of that lake.
I'm still not entirely convinced that this isn't a dream. Perhaps I should swear off Chiana's Grolac. It obviously doesn't agree with me.
Aeryn seemed at a loss for words as well. She took the royal sash and pendant from Rigel's hand, slipped the sash over Rigel's head, arranged the pendant on his chest. You honoured me with this. I won't forget.
Oh. Rigel was breathing normally now. No, this was no dream. She truly had returned. He drew himself to full height, met her eyes, and started to say, "Welcome back, Officer Sun," in his finest royal proclamation voice. But to his surprise, the words came out differently. "Welcome home, Aeryn."
Impulsive behaviour yet again. You would really have to do something about that.
Oh, brilliant.
Richard Manning describes himself as an aging hack writer who has churned out episodes for such diverse television shows as Star Trek The Next Generation, Fame Beyond Reality, Tech War, Essos Quo, Space Precinct, Sliders, and, Farscape.
Richard is the writer of Thrown for a Loss, That Old Black Magic, Nerve, Mind the Baby, Won't Get Fooled Again, Season of Death, Incubator, and more to come, as we've seen.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. There's some names here that I really recognize. Tech War, do you remember that?
No. I'm sorry. Was that the failed William Shatner thing?
I wouldn't say it was failed. It had 4 television movies and a 22-episode season and a video game and several novels.
Okay. I take back my... I knew it existed, but that's about the only
franchise. I don't know.
Well, let's say I'd never made it onto Dutch syndicate television. Or did it?
It did, because I saw it. Okay. I saw those four films, and then I sort of eventually managed to acquire through, sparkling streaming.
Back in the day before that was on the yes. I mean, it's only streaming. No, never mind.
Oh, yes, no, I know. It's from the Champagne region of the download Internet, section. Yes. Otherwise, it's like Sparkling Acquisition. That's what it's called. Oh, Space Precinct. We're going to have to figure out some way to cram in Greatai Hiatai.
Oh, how many do we still have coming?
Not a lot, because it's like a straight shot through the season 4, which, as we know, is the end of the series. Yeah. We're going to have to figure something out, because Space Precinct, you absolutely have to see. Jerry Anderson. Do you know who Jerry Anderson is from Super Mario Nation?
I know the name.
Thunderbirds.
Oh, right, of course.
Captain Scarlet. Yes. I think Space Precinct is a show that was produced by the Jerry Anderson Studios, and it was like half live action, half animatronics.
Okay. That sounds like, well, a little bit more than animatronics than we have in Farscape, but otherwise...
Yeah.
All right.
Exo Squad I don't recognize, but okay. So, well done.
Thank you for joining us for another Tales of the Uncharted...
Earth. Just Earth. Earp.
Earp. Tales of Earp. Yes, Wyatt Earp. No way. Join us next week for another regular episode.
Season 4, episode 14, Twice Shy, which we're really looking forward to.
So, from here, as we say...
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.